Hey guys, I just want to bring up an opportunity for resource investors. If you want to rub elbows with the big wigs and talk to companies directly that are handpicked by Rick Rule, well, you got to be in Boca Raton from July 7th to 11th for the Rick Rule Symposium. The event has become a premier event in the mining space, and they're going to have some pretty big speakers like Robert Friedland, Sean Rusin, and the great Rick Rule. And also, we're going to be there. You can meet the Deep Dive team in person. So if you're interested in rubbing elbow with some of the biggest heavy hitters in junior mining, check out the link below. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm chatting with Kyler Hardy from Temas Resources. Now, Temas is very interesting if anybody takes a chance to look at their investor deck, because the gap between their current market cap and their after-tax net present value on their PEA is literally 1,000x in difference. They've got an MPV north of $6 billion with a market cap south of $7 million at the time of filming. Now, in this interview, we discuss what needs to happen in order for there to be a big titanium industry in Canada, what Temas plans to accomplish this summer, and what shareholders should be looking for should they choose to invest and want to evaluate management. All right, everybody, enjoy the interview. Kyler, thanks so much for joining us today.
Steve, great to be here.
So titanium has been in the news lately thanks to some fake or counterfeit titanium that originated in China. It was used in both Boeing and Airbus planes, as I am reading. How big is the titanium market, and do you think that there's a need for locally sourced titanium out there?
Well, that's the $1 billion question, if you will. I don't know the exact size of the titanium metal market itself, but as far as locally or domestically sourced titanium, absolutely. Canada right now, we gave a hall pass to Bombardier to go and buy from the Russians, which I think is terrible for us as a country to be doing that, especially since we have Lacteo, which produces a titanium dioxide, which can further be refined into titanium metal in our backyard. One of the longest running mines in the world is 70 plus years right now. So with that said, what we lack is processing onshore here, processing and additional resource outside of what Rio Tinto's doing, as well as maybe a little bit of additional production done in the southern U.S. So it's, honestly, it's we need to reshore is my opinion.
So let's talk about titanium. Based on high level math here, I got it at about a $27 billion market. So it's not insignificant. It's bigger than the uranium market.
There you go.
Where's most of the demand for titanium coming from?
So titanium, I'm going to touch on two pieces here, both titanium and titanium dioxide. The titanium dioxide market is about 23 billion on top of the metal market itself. So all of a sudden you're approaching a $50 billion market there, which again we talk about it. It's one's a derivative of the other. So your primary uses are coming from paints at about 60% of the TiO2 market, and plastics, which is just shy of 30% of the TiO2 market. The balance is in cosmetics and paper. When you start to talk about the titanium metal market, it's defense and aerospace is nearly all of it. Rocket ships, tanks and weapons, and then airplanes, and all of those critical components on airplanes that we are, keep the planes in the air, keep the engines attached to the planes. You want something that isn't going to rust, that is, light and very, very strong on those, and that's the primary uses for it.
So let's talk about Temas. You've been involved with the company for a while now. High level for our audience new to the story, what is the pitch for Temas?
Temas, well, it's a pretty simple pitch. We're currently sitting at about between, let's call it 6.5 and 8 million market cap, someplace in there. We just released a updated resource and a PEA, 6.6 billion post-tax NPV8 on the project, 60+% IRR on the project, We've consolidated the jurisdiction now, which has added additional 2 additional mineralized lenses onto the project. It is a larger build at 1.2 billion, but it is, that's a 2-year payback essentially, and 14-year mine life. So with 208 million tons in the ground, plus historic resource we picked up on this new ground. So that and this mine life is only based on getting about 60% of the ore out of the ground. If we do a 5th wall pushback in our pit design, you've got another 14 years of mine life there. I think, as far as a critical metal goes, that's going into a development stage into pre-feas. This is one of the most undervalued stories on the market right now, and I think it's just simply because we relaunched the company about 12 months ago, and have only made big strides, I would say, in the last, call it, 6 months or so.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but this project here, the Blache project and the Brule project, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciations.
Close enough.
These were a part of a company called Argex back 2010 to 2012-ish. And that was a stock that really was a big name in the Canadian junior markets. I know that there was a lot of excitement. Do you have any knowledge of what exactly happened there and what the excitement was built on and why Argex was unable to get to the finish line?
For sure, actually. So it was in 2 companies. So the main Blache lens was in a company called Nevada Resources. The ground that we just picked up to consolidate the camp was in Argex Titanium. So now we've consolidated a camp that no one's ever had together before, which we're quite pleased with. So back in 2010 to 2014, 15, this thing was a high flyer. I think Argex was north of 400 mil market cap. Nevada was similar. They had the whole district staked up between them. And they were both using different technologies, extraction technologies. And they started to go down a path of, I guess both of them got more focused on the technology than the resource in the ground is what my understanding what happened. And it just started to fall apart when they couldn't get it into feasibility study. I mean, this project should be through feasibility at this stage because of the this is the scope and the size of it. And both firms started to focus more on technology, I would say, than on the resource. And that was just the slow, I guess, crumbling of them, unfortunately. Their misfortune is our benefit, I suppose, really right now. And with that said, we have picked up a technology, one of the ones that Argex was looking at and deploying, and it's on the 3rd generation now. We own 50%.
So something that's kind of fun here is that you guys put out a PEA for the Blache property. Massive number. What was it? $6 billion NPV? What was the number?
6.6 billion NPV post-tax.
6.6 billion post-tax. The current market cap of the company is $7 million, $7.5 million.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the PEA? How does this company have such a gap between the current valuation and what the net present value of the project is currently stated at?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it was when we had originally IPO'd this company. I can't remember if it was 2019 or 2020. It was meant to. We told the market we were going to update the resource and do a PEA at that stage. Fast forward 4 years, 5 years. Here we are, finally getting that out. We had to restructure the company in the meantime. We rolled it back 9-for-1. I think the problem, or not the problem, but the opportunity and the disconnect between the value of the project and the share price is we did not talk to the market for at least 2 years. Basically, it was we put out maintenance news releases. We did no real get it out there, talk to the investors. I put the money in order to get this thing across the line on the PEA. Because that's what we said we were going to do to the market. And there was just nothing to talk about until we actually got it done. So now it's basically we closed a small friends and family round early last winter. we did another small financing here, 1.7 million just recently, and that's primarily to start to get the word of the company out, to diversify our shareholder base and get out talking to people. And I think a lot of it's got to do with just re-educating people on what we have and getting that story out there to revalue it and show that we're going to move this forward through pre-fees and hopefully get an offtake in place, hopefully bring a big partner in order to advance this through fees and maybe into production if the studies turn out. So there's a lot of work to do, but right now it's a lot of that work is telling the overall market about what we have.
What's the next steps for the project then? Like if I'm looking at the company for 2024, what am I looking for in terms of what the company should be accomplishing over the remainder of the year?
In the near term here, we'll be adding several key team members. We just added Veronique Laberge onto the board. Rory Kutlululu stepped back, just simply because he's an exploration geologist, and we're through the exploration into the development phase now. He's moved on to something else, and we wish him the best of luck. Veronique brings a entirely different skill set, opens doors into Quebec and Toronto market for financing, and starts to francophone our company. On top of that, we'll be adding a few more management positions over the next bit here. People that have the technical skill set to take this through a pre-feasibility and other advanced studies. Over the course of this year, a big push for us will be a drill program sometime this fall to move the resource from inferred to measured and indicated, or as much of it as possible, as well as to reconfirm some of that mineralization we picked up on the historic Argex ground that we've recently optioned from a Quebec prospector, and drilling further to the west on the Blache lens towards the Shmoo showing, which should daylight the overall lens, which will be fantastic for us. So it's going to be confirmatory drilling, advanced resource drilling, and hopefully later on this year, as we're sort of winding the drilling down or partway through it, launching the pre-feasibility study and getting to work on that, as there's a lot of work to do, as you know, on taking that through pre-fees. It's a couple of years of work.
What's the type of step you'd have to be at to be looking at offtakes? Like, could you be talking about like sometimes we see companies put out MOUs on offtakes pretty early. Sometimes you'd expect it would be a little bit further along, but I mean, these things can't just happen in a vacuum. In order to raise money for a project, you often have to show bankers that there is demand for the product there. At what point do you start having those conversations with potential off-takers?
As we go into the fall and we get some new material from the drilling work that we're going to be doing, and as well using the material we have from our last MET program, we'll be shipping that out starting later on this fall to potential off-takers, potential joint venture partners, chemical companies, etc., that can partner with us on the project. And it's going to be a slow process. Every TiO2 user has their own specific processing kind of regime that they put the material through. Paint specifically is a very finicky product. There's a lot of chemical work that's gone into it to develop these mixtures. And so they have to see if the material is going to work in their particular formula, and two, if it doesn't work in the formula as it sits, can they modify the formula in order to make it worth their time for the next, say, 14, 15 years to be off-taking from that specific mine, basically. So we will be, anything that isn't under NDA with specific, potential off-takers, we will be talking about moving forward. But it's something that's very top of our mind. It'll be a critical component for the pre-fees to show that we can sell the product at the end of the day in large enough quantity to make this a viable project.
What's the conversation like right now with the institutional investors you're talking with in terms of just the overall level of interest? It seems to us like we're kind of looking back here at the Canadian junior markets, it feels like things are picking up over the last month. I don't know if we've now got fund managers that are looking back going, we're at the beginning of what's going to be some pretty significant drops in interest rates. Now's the time to start getting positioned. What's your take on it in terms of the conversations that you're having with institutional investors? Is there a lot of interest on the side of those sort of sophisticated investors? And are you finding that's picking up at all?
Yeah, it's I think we're probably a month and a half into a bit of a quiet bull market. Not the raging bull market we'd all love to be in, but we've got to start somewhere. Uh, we've really noticed an uptake in, sorry, not an uptake, but an uptick in conversations with institutions, with family offices, with the ultra high net worths out there that are looking for that kind of critical metal component to add into their portfolio, especially more advanced. A lot of these people want more advanced projects, and that's what we can actually offer here. So it's been a lot easier opening those doors than traditionally for an exploration project than over the years. Outside of that, I would say the retail sector is actually starting to pick up as well, which, as you guys know, is obviously critical for building a company. It's, institutions finance it and retail builds it really at the end of the day. But these conversations that we're having, it's not just in Canada and the US. We're getting interest from Australia. We're getting interest from all across Europe right now, the UK, even into Singapore and that, which it's really quite wide based at this stage. It's not only just talking about titanium dioxide. All of a sudden, iron ore seems to be a topic of interest, and that's a big component of the deposit is iron in there. So it's the narrative and the conversation since we started relaunching this a year ago has, I would say, been put on its head. It's not the same conversation for sure.
Okay, Kyler, last question. So if I'm looking at this and I'm trying to get excited about Temas and the titanium industry just in general, what are the big roadblocks or what needs to happen in order for us to see more interest in titanium deals? Because you guys aren't the first company I've seen that has a project. I've had a few private companies that have come to us to show us their decks. It seems like there's other people that are sort of circling titanium as this industry that has a shot of being pretty powerful over the next decade. What is it that needs to happen in order for titanium companies to really catch a bid and for retail shareholders to make money investing in names like Temas?
Yeah, that's the $1 billion question now, isn't it? In our opinion, we need to see governments put their shoulder into onshoring, I should say, titanium processing. Really push the majors and the mid-tier processors to source from domestic supply rather than let's say the mineral sands across Africa, East and West Africa. We need to really examine our supply chain about where are we producing from, where are we processing, and finally where are we selling to. And I bring it back to right now Canada has to buy from Russia. Canada has to buy from China, and I think that's a bit of a travesty. Just going through this process in such a mineral-rich country, and like you said, there are new titanium and titanium dioxide deals popping up out there. A lot of them around the same area that we're in. Obviously, it's a rich area in mineralization and exploration opportunity. We've got arguably probably the most advanced titanium dioxide titanium project in the region at this stage, and part of it is an education process, but part of it is the will of the government and the will of the powers that be in order to push industry to onshore rather than offshore.
Hey, well, Kyler, thanks for hopping on here today. I think it's not too often you see a company that is sort of in the mid stages or even early stages of what they intend to do, that trades at 1,000x gap between their after-tax NPV and their current market cap. So please keep coming on here in the future and updating us as the story continues to roll out. And as a shareholder, I'm really excited to see what you can do.
Steve, thanks so much for having me on. I'll come back anytime. Love talking with you guys.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Also, let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks, everyone.